Welcome back to the flagship studio here at the JP Morgan Health Conference 2024. I'm delighted to be joined by Lovísa Afzelius, the founding CEO and co-founder of AprioriBio. Lovísa, there are a number of our colleagues who actually aren't here at JPM this year, and we're hearing of others who didn't make it because of yet another COVID variant that is whipping around the country and around the world. And Apriori works, in fact, on variant-proof vaccines. Can you describe how that works?
Absolutely, happy to. Thank you so much for having me here, Christine. So Apriori, as you say, it was really founded to think about variant-resilient vaccine design.
And variant-resilient.
Yeah, variant-resilient in the sense that right now we're being immensely reactive when we are designing vaccines. Every single time there is a new variant, we literally have to redesign the immunogen in that vaccine. The world we want to see in the future is where we can preempt disease in the sense that we understand the evolutionary paths of the viruses. And we can start to say, these are the threats that we foresee in the future as well as today, and design vaccines that are resilient towards the breadth of potential future threats. Because if we can do so, then we have the ability to prevent these types of outbreaks and continuous outbreaks, as we're constantly seeing in the context of COVID.
And so you get there first.
We get there first, a priori.
And you do that through, in part, AI. And I know you have a paper coming out tomorrow about how to think about AI. But the AI-driven engine behind Apriori is called Octavia. How does Octavia work?
So Octavia is I would say, biology-informed AI engine. So the way Octavia works is that we start by taking a look at the phylogenetic trees, really how the virus evolves. And we define particular antigen anchors. And then we design massive libraries of fragments of viruses around those anchor antigens. So we have hundreds of thousands of versions of the viral fragment. And then we experimentally test how antibodies, whether they are from convalescent sera or they are therapeutic antibodies, how they actually do bind to these viral variants. And this gives us beautiful, large data sets with extreme granularity on both the positive interaction as well as the negative interactions, which are really good data sets to do machine learning and AI. And the way that we trained our models is that we can actually take into account what happens with multiple different substitutions or mutations at the same time. So with our machine learning, we can now start to infer from that experimental data to that massiveness of the variant space that would otherwise would just be too big to ever explore experimentally alone, because the space is so big. Just the step between wild type and Omicron, for example, could have been 10 to the order of 60 different potential variants.
So for non-math people, 10 to the order of 60, give us some kind of way to think about numbers that large.
It's like more the number of atoms in the universe.
Okay, so that helps.
That helps. So it's like there are a couple of few years you'll have to spend in the lab in order to be able to actually characterize those. Yeah.
You know, the implications of getting out ahead of a variant before it mutates, before people get sick, has huge implications for public policy and public health, and not just for biopharma. And Apriori is getting a lot of national and global attention. You've won a number of awards this year. Talk about the amount of attention you're seeing for Apriori and how it's influencing things at the company.
Absolutely.
You're a West global pioneer.
Yes. And I think it's what we're trying to do is really redefining vaccinology. And these last couple of years, we've seen massive advances. The mRNA technology has just made it programmable to actually do vaccine delivery. But if we think about understanding the immunogens, the payloads of that vaccine, it's actually still quite artisanal in the way that we choose those immunogens. And what AprioriBio is all about is how do we make that immunogen design programmable and systematic. And that is something that very few has actually embarked on. And that's why I think we have received several of those awards, like, for example, the Technology Pioneer Award from World Economic Forum. And I think for everyone in the company, I think everyone feel very proud of that, a small startup as ourselves that have taken on a very big task, are also being recognized for it, that we're trying to do something that is quite different from what everyone else is
And
doing.
vast, as you say.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that we are now really cracking the code of how we move from that initial experimental data to actually translating it in vivo as to generating that antibody repertoire that we believe that we need in order to be protected towards both current but also future threats a priori.
As you can see where you got your name.
Yes.
Cracking the code to reimagine vaccinology and protect more people. Thank you so much for joining us here in the flagship studio, Lovisa.
Thank you so much, Christine.